We're starting this year?
Yeah, now we're going to start the Daf Yomi.
Okay.
Nun Gimel, 53. So at some point, you cannot cut a fruit tree down during Shemitah. So at what point? So Hazesi Mishianitsu, olives when you start budding olives. Ushakal and Osbashiyotsi, when you start seeing the fruit coming out. Amravasi. No, who boiser, who girua, who pull a lava. This is the shear for when we talk about early ripening and like a white bean. Pull a lava, it's like a diet. What do you mean a white bean? We're talking about grapes here. That means when the grape is the size of this white bean, so that's already considered that it's a fruit tree. Uman shamas leidomer boiser in smother low, but boiser means if it reaches this small shear, yes, but smodar is even an earlier stage. There, it would not be considered a fruit tree yet. It's Rabbanan uktani shar kol eilonos b'shiyotziu, who said all the other trees is when any kind of fruit comes out. So why did Rabbi Loi cut down that tree? El Rabbi Loi bin Ischani cuts. He cut a date tree where they'll never become ripe, and therefore it's not considered a fruit tree. It's considered like a wood tree, and therefore it was not an isser to cut that kind of tree down. You can eat grapes until there's no more grapes in a place called oichel. Right? We've been learning that you can eat, you don't have to get rid of the fruits in your house as long as there's fruits in the field for the wild animals. So grapes, the Gemara says, until there's no more in oichel. But if you find somewhere else where there are later ones, you can even eat until them are gone. Generally, Tkoa was a place where it had olives, and I guess it was one of the latest places. So you could eat until there were no more left in Tkoa. A different place, Gush Chalaf. That when a poor person goes out in the field, he doesn't find it, not in the branches, not at the roots. Then oichlen but groigros is figs. Achichlu pagi beishini, until there's no more figs in pagi beishini. I mean, pagi beishini, elinyan meiser. That din was told because of meiser. What's the din of meiser? The tani. The snan pagi beithini vayini the tuvyana chayavim b'meiser. Even though these are dates. I'm sorry. Ahini the tuvina is a kind of date. They don't really ripen fully, but they're good they're still used for food purposes, and therefore you would give meiser from it. Then oichlen b'tmorim, you eat dates at sheyichla achron shebetzoar, until the area of tzoar doesn't have any dates. So the dates would fall from the tops of the palms between the leaves. There, the animals would climb up to eat them. But in if they fall in the thorns, well, the animals don't go there. So there, even though there are dates still there, that's not a simon that you're still allowed to eat them because the animals don't go there. That we have time periods, not places. It says you can eat grapes until Pesach. Zaysim you can eat until Shavuos. Groigros, figs, ad Chanukah. And B'tmor Marapurim. Rav Bibi, Rav Yochanan, Tarti Basraisa Machlif. And Rabbi Yochanan, the two last ones, he would say that figs you can eat until Purim, tomorrow until Chanukah. And we said all along that it's related to until, for example, the last one is in Soar. So really they're the same thing. The last time it was found in Soar, that's the same time period that we've described. Or like it said in our mission, that means if there are places where this produce is still present, you can still eat on it. So even though technically the majority of the time the city of Tsoar and the city of Tekoa were the last places, sometimes it went longer, even to Hanukkah, even to Purim. That's what the Gemara means. Tanya Rav Shimon Gamliel Loimer. Simin Laharim Mili. How do you know you're talking about a place of mountains? Because there are milim trees. It's a type of tree called milim.
Gall nuts.
Gall nuts. Right, aftzim, because they use gall nuts to tan Torah scrolls. And these trees were found in the mountains. So you want to know, are you in a mountainous area? If you see these trees, you know you're in a mountainous area. Simin la'mokim to kolim. The sign that you're in a valley, palms. Simin la'nacholim, you're in a river area, kinim, reeds. Simin la'shvela, shvela is like a plain. Shikma, the sycamore tree, which doesn't produce fruit, Rashi says, but it produces fine lumber. I'll give you a pasuk shenemar. Vayitena melech hazeh kesef Yerushalayim ka'avonim v'sa'arazim natan k'shikmin asher b'shvela larov. That Shlomo Melech handed out silver like stones and cedar trees like sycamores that are found plenty on the plain. Now we said simin laharim milim, simin lamokim dekolim. Now, why do I need to know whether we're talking about a mountainous place? What halacha does it apply to? So the nafkamina is lebikurim. This non ein meviim bikurim al mishiva saminim. First of all, bikurim come only from the 7 species, and lo midikolim shebaharim. You may not bring bikurim from dates growing from palm trees in the mountains. So that's why you know what's the siman for a mountain if you have milim there. And therefore, if you have palm trees there, bikurim would not be chal. Velomi perush shabamokim. A fruit that normally grows in the mountain regions, if they grow on the plains, you would not bring bikurim from them.
The valley considers that inferior.
Right, so produce, tfua, grain in the valleys are not as good. Similar to Cholim Kinim, what's the difference? Why do I need to know if this is a river place or not? Nafkamina, Nachaletan. So for the Egla Rufa, if you find a dead body between 2 cities, you have to measure between the 2 cities who's closer. Then you bring those zikanim down to the river, and you have to decapitate an egel. Well, how do you know you go down to a river? Well, if you have reeds there, you know halachically it's a river. Similar shvela shikma. Shvela is like the plain. So if you find sycamore there, that's a good plain. Nafkamina lemekachu memkar. Let's say you're a real estate broker and you want to buy real estate in the plain. Well, you know you're buying land in the plain if you find sycamore trees. Oh, now you gave me that reason. Well, if you want to buy mountain land versus valley land, well, you got to know what you're buying based on these trees. You don't have to come onto these halachic reasons, but you can come just practical in terms of real estate purchase. Mishnah. So we started this parak talking about places that had a custom to do work Erev Pesach, not to do work. Malcolm Shanagulim Korbehema, Dakal and Acharim. There were cities where it was customary to sell goats and sheep, small animals to Goyim, Mochrim. Malcolm Shalonaglim, if there was a custom not to, ain't Mochrim. Malcolm, Ein moich lehem behem kasa. We never sold them large work animals like oxen, camels, agolin, usyochim, shleimim ushvur. Calves, either they're whole or broken. We'll see why, because we were concerned that they would work them on Shabbos as well. Because they would work for a period of time on Shabbos, but then they would regret the deal, go back on the deal, give you back the animal, and they worked sort of retroactively with a behem of Yisrael that really belonged to a Jew, which is what we're supposed to behem techa. They're not supposed to work on Shabbos. That's the gzeira. Rabbi Mater b'shvura. Rabbi says it's permitted by an animal that's got a broken leg because it can't work. Then b'seir mater b'sus, because there's really no isser work with riding a horse is only an isser drabonon. It's not an isser deraisa. That if in a city where it was customary to eat roasted meat the night of Pesach, you ate it. The custom not to eat roasted meat, the custom was not to eat roasted meat.
Ernie, 1 second. With the roasted meat, we know that everybody's kulo nagu lo lechol tzli.
Not so. Here you see beferish the Mishnah. Makam shenagu lechol tzli b'leilei psachim oichlin.
Do we know of any place like that today?
Our minig, the Ashkenazi minig, is not to eat tzli, but
And
there
what's
was.
the Sephardi minhag? I don't think so. I don't know any. I've never heard of a minhag to eat tzli.
The Shulchan Aruch says, "Makam shenagu lechol tzli b'leilei Pesach oichlin. Makam shenagu shaloi lechol ein oichlin. Uminag Ashkenazim she'ein oichlin. V'yesh oimrim afilu tzli oath, that even roasted chicken you shouldn't eat. Ugdi makulis kamo b'korban Pesach also b'chol makom. Roasting a whole goat, that's also for everybody. But it was totally minig.
Now you tell me.
Why you becoming a Sephardi?
No,
We always make goat.
no, a whole goat.
A whole goat, of
It's
course.
a whole goat. We'll see. Gedima kulis was they roasted
On a spit.
They had the whole goat. You remember once at the Yavne trustee dinner?
Yeah.
It was in a beautiful mansion.
Wasn't a trustee dinner? It was a
I'm sorry, it was not a trustee dinner.
It was a jackpot. Jackpot dinner.
And they had a whole lamb roasted.
Yeah.
I'll never
Yeah.
forget it. And they carved you on people.
Yeah.
It was the best meat I've ever had, ever.
So aluau is out of the question, I guess.
You're right.
The who?
Aluau.
Luau.
I'm just in the mood with the background.
Right, with the apple in the mouth. You cannot, like the night of Pesach, say on the meat, this meat is for Pesach. It looks too much like you're being harezu shlomim, harezu korban Pesach. So you can't do it. It looks too much like a marisayin, like you're being magdish behemah. And therefore, oichel kochim b'chutz. And as if you're eating kochim outside of the Beis Hamikdash. Rav Papa, dafka basar. You can't point to meat and say this meat should be basar zeh Pesach. Aval chiti lo. But you could say, oh, I want this wheat to be for Pesach, because the minter lepisach ka'amar. It's like shmura matzah. You could say, I'm designating this wheat for Pesach. Freit the Gemara basar lo. What? You cannot say basar zeh Pesach meisvi. I'm Rav Yosef. Tudus ish roini. There was a guy named Tudus. He was an important Jew. I think he was a doctor. We have other sources that say he was a doctor. And there was a large Jewish community in Rome. When I toured the Roman ruins, our tour guide told us that Titus and Vespasian, they brought, 20, 30,000, maybe more Jewish slaves, and they built the Colosseum. They built, because I think there's writing on the top of the Colosseum that says the Judea Capta, they participated in building the Colosseum.
By the way, he says Tudus, apparently an abridged version of the Greek name Theodorus. The Hebrew equivalent of this name is Matityahu, meaning gift of Hashem.
Yeah, don't you say, Mario, in Spanish, todo, isn't todo, thank you?
Well, Toda.
Toda.
Yeah.
Oh, toda. Oh, todo is everything, right.
Todo
In
is
Spanish
everything.
is everything.
No, but tudus, it's from Greek. Okay, not Latin. So tudus ishromi. Oh, I was going to say there. So then there was a large Roman Jewish settlement, and that Roman Jewish settlements, many of them slowly moved up the boot of Italy and ended up in the Rhine River Valley. So all those communities like Worms and Speyer and Magenz that ended up during the Crusades, like in the year 1100, many of those communities were affected by the Crusades. Many of them had come up from the originally Roman settlement who had come from the Golan, that Vespasian had taken at the time of the exile. So it traces a little bit of Ashkenazic Jewry that way. So Tudus Yishromi gets he would have the community in Rome eat this like roasted goat. The Chachamim in Eretz Yisrael sent a message to Tudus. He said, listen, if it wasn't for the fact that you're Tudus, we'd put you to Cherem. It's as if you're feeding Kodshim Chutz Lebeis HaMikdash. Afraid to work Kodshim Sakita. Who would have thought that he's feeding Kodshim? It's if it looks like they're eating Kodshim. And people make a mistake. However, Makulas in, but that's roasting a whole goat, but she'ain Makulas, but regular meat low. Maybe you should be able to eat that. Amri Makulas loishna Omar loishna lo Amar. That means Makulas is prohibited whether you say it, this is for Pesach or not for Pesach. Now, she'ein Makulas, regular meat, so then Pirish in, if you say, oh, this is for Pesach, so that's a problem. Loy Pirish lo. But if you didn't specifically say this is for Pesach, it's not a problem. Ravacha Masni Lola Mashnesuk Rab Shimon. Ravacha learned this like Rab Shimon. Mask Rav Sheshes Bishlam Laman the time like Rab Yosi. The one who learned it like Rab Yosi Nicha. And Laman the Masik Rab Shimon Nicha. But not Rab Shimon Poiter. So this is a case where a person dedicates something to the Beis HaMikdash, but it's not. For example, a personal mincha can only come from wheat. You can never say Hareini mincha minach. Normally you would say Hareini mincha minachitim. But if you say Hareini mincha minasaorim, it's like a what's the word? It's a paradox. You can't bring a mincha from barley. So what if you said it? Did you have to bring a korban? Rab Shimon Poiter. Rab Shimon says no. You didn't make the statement the way you have to make it. But Rabbi Yosi says, no, we take your first word, mincha. Mincha, we assume you have to bring a regular mincha. So, Amalei Ravina Ravashi, Umandamas like Rabbi Yosi minicha, but it's not good for Rabbi Yosi either. Amar Rava, Rabbi Shimon, but she does Rabbi Yosi Amar. The Amar Af Bikmar Dvar of Adam Nitfas. Rabbi Yosi held that even your last words, not just your first words, have to be taken into account. And since you said mincha min hasoirim, we have to take the soirim into account, then you can't bring the mincha because there's no such thing as a mincha min hasoirim. My love is Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Yosi, Rabbi Shimon. Who told you that if Rabbi Shimon holds like Rabbi Yosi holds like Rabbi Shimon? No. Rab Shimon served like Rab Yossi, but below Rab Yossi served like Rab Shimon. It's not a two-way street. Rab Shimon holds like Rab Yossi, but Rab Yossi doesn't hold like Rab Shimon. Tudus was a big man. Was he a big Jew? That means he was known for his Torah. Or when we say he was a big man, maybe he was a mafiosi. Maybe he was a power guy. Toshma. Tudus made the fine drasha. In the time of Nebuchadnezzar, Chananim, Mishael, Azariah allowed themselves to be thrown into the furnace of fire rather than bow down to the idol. And they were saved. Now, what did Chananim, Mishael, Azariah, how did they know that they would be saved? Nasu kal v'chomer ba'atzma mitzvardiim. They made a kal v'chomer with the frogs in the Mitzrayim, which we're going to have this week in the Parsha. Matzvardiim shein mitzvah kiddush Hashem. A frog does not have the mitzvah of kiddush Hashem. The frogs will come into your house. It's going to come into your ovens. Now, when is the misharos, which is baking goods? We're talking about a hot oven. It's not frogs running into an oven because it's empty. It's frogs running even into a hot oven. So you see, frogs are ready to die for Kiddush Hashem because they were mitzvah to go there, and they have no chiyuv. Anan shemitzvah Kiddush Hashem. We have a mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. Allah has come v'kama that we need to throw ourselves in the fire. So the Gemara seems to think, well, Tudus must not be a mafiosi. He's a Talmud Chacham because he gave a wonderful drasha. No, he would loan money to Talmidei Chachamim and serve as their partner in business, so they could open up businesses. So he gave parnasa to Chachamim, but he did it in a way where he would loan them money and become a partner with them. That's how the Meforshim Rashi learns. He gave them merchandise. Whoever does this he sits in the yeshiva in Hashem. Whoever is B'tzilak Chachma, there's also the shade of Kosev. So we do madlik candles at home and in shul. Some do it at home, some do it in shul on Yom Kippur. So that's, again, totally minig. Those places where there's a minig to light, lit. However, madlikin b'batik knesses b'batim midrashos, that they did everywhere. They lit in shuls, and in dark alleyways, and for sick people. They both they're both relying on the same din. That the Gemara's Havamina is that they to stay away from Aveira, because you're not allowed to have relations with your wife. So some held that if you lit candles, well, you're supposed to have relations in the dark, so nobody would have relations with the light on. So the minig to light candles was because to avoid tashmish. The other person who held you should not light candles had the same reasoning. If you didn't see your wife, you wouldn't be stimulated to have relations. So they wanted to keep things dark. Your people are tzaddikim. They were all doing the same thing. I mean, to try to stay b'kedusha on Yom Kippur. We say bar ma'ori ha'esh, only Motzei Shabbos, because fire was created the first Motzei Shabbos. Hoil uschilas b'yasohu. Amar le'ahu Saba, Eliyahu Navi said, or an old man said, V'tem Rav Chana Yasher. Yasher Koyach. Chena Rav Yechon. Ula v'rochiv cham Rav Vazel. Ula was riding a donkey. Avishakol Vazel Rav Abba Miminei. Rav Abba was to his right. Rav Chana Mismolei. Rav Chana was to his left. Amalei Rav Abba Ula. So Rav Abba said to Lavada Damitu B'Shvei Rav Yochanan. They must have said it in the name of Rav Yochanan. Ein Mavarchim Ha'oil and Motzei Shabbos. Hoil U'Schilas B'Yasahu. Did he say that? Hadar Ula Chazav Beit Rav Baruch Hanan Bishus. So it was like they were questioning what did Ula say. So he looked at him like with an evil eye because he was upset with him. Amalei Ano Lava Ha Amri. I didn't say that. Allah Ha Amri. I said the following: the Tana Kamed Rav Yochanan. This was learned in front of Rav Yochanan. Shimon ben Elazar Omer. Yom Kippurim Shechalios b'Shabbos. Yom Kippur that falls on Shabbos. Af b'makom she'amru shelo lahadlik. Even those makoimos where if Yom Kippur fell on a Wednesday, they would not light candles. Here, madlikin. Then they covered a Shabbos. V'ani Rav Yochanan Basrei, and Rav Yochanan agreed. Rav Yochanan added the Chachamim oisrim, but the Chachamim prohibited, or did not say not to light, even when it falls on Shabbos. Amarle Ada Tehei. Okay, let it be miskabel. That's how the Kabbalah came. Kori Ale Rav Yosef Mayim Amukim Eitza Belevish V'ish Tvuna Yidvema. That there are deep waters in the heart of a person, and a wise man will draw from there. Okay. We'll stop here. Tomorrow we'll learn at 8 o'clock, God willing.
Go ahead.